Now, next on Morning Focus, we're going to chat about a new book which is challenging the very foundations of our relationship with technology and power. The writer and campaigner Gerry McGovern has just released 99th Day, a warning about technology, a forensic examination of big tech, environmental collapse and the culture that is driving both. The book's been launched with a national community-based tour. The official launch takes place this coming Sunday in Feakle, hosted by Keep Tulla, Untouched and Came. Gerry McGovern, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us on the show.
And thank you for inviting me on. And just to say, it's Monday is the launch, not
taking place on Monday. Okay, the book. So tell us a bit more about it. 99 Day, a warning about technology, dealing with big issues. It's been described as urgent and unsettling. What exactly does the title mean, Gerry?
Well, it's about that we have very little time to turn around what we're doing to the planet, that we're in this process of exponential growth. And it's essentially got out of control. Since the 1970s, we've done 3 times more damage to the planet than in the previous 200,000 years. So there's an acceleration of damage that's occurring to the soil, to the air, to the water, to the valleys, to the mountains. And we're not really aware of it, but it's very soon going to impact us, or it certainly impact our children and our grandchildren.
Okay, so some serious issues to consider. And you argue in it that white male supremacy culture within big tech is driving environmental and social collapse. There's a strong claim. What can you expand upon that?
Well, I think there's a culture in technology, and there's a long culture in science of a kind of male supremacy, and a lot of the people who design, for example, artificial intelligence, see it almost as this pure male creation that does not need to involve any sort of female wisdom or female input. And if we look at a lot of the figures that drive technology today, whether Musk or Zuckerberg's, they're hyper masculine. I mean, Zuckerberg and Musk were saying that they were going to have a cage fight, and Zuckerberg has one of those cages in his gardens where he practices. So there's an intensely macho culture that drives the technology environment, and they have a very specific view of the world that I don't think most ordinary people share.
And Gerry, does that kind of feed into an issue that we discussed extensively on Morning Focus, which was Grok, the ex-AI tool, and everything, all the controversy around it being used to undress women and children digitally? Do you see that, though, as just the tip of a much bigger iceberg?
It's the tip of a much bigger iceberg, and that feeds from a culture. That's not a flaw in Grok, that's a feature. These are designed by a certain type of male, particularly for a certain type of male. And, you know, there's many years, 10 years, 50 years, 100 years of thinking and coding that goes behind this. So Grok undressing women is by no means an accident. It is part of the core design. And I would just say here this morning, if people listening to this take one thing from our conversation, is be super careful about AI connected with your children. It is an extraordinarily dangerous technology.
And I think if people weren't aware of it before, certainly the whole Grok controversy has made them hyper aware of it. Your book, Gerry, it links digital technology to resource extraction and environmental destruction, which I think it'd be fair to say something people perhaps don't often connect. Can you explain that link?
Well, say the fastest growing waste stream in the world today is not plastic, it's e-waste. E-waste is basically the end result. Our phones, something like 18 billion smartphones have been made since 2007. And each one of those smartphones involves somewhere between 70 to 90 kg of mining waste. So there's an absolute explosion in waste, both in the mining for the materials, and these electronics are extraordinarily energy intense. And that doesn't matter whether we're talking about smartphones or solar panels or wind turbines. They are massively material intense, and they have a huge impact on indigenous communities and wild nature throughout the planet. And then they're not designed to be recycled. Modern chips are utterly unrecyclable, and every new generation of chip makes them less and less recyclable. So they end up being dumped after 2 or 3 years, and AI is just going to accelerate this because it's all about processors, super intense processes that need to be changed every 2, 3, 4 years. So there's this massive acceleration of e-waste and an equal massive acceleration of mining waste to build all this digital stuff. Digital is physical. The cloud is on the ground in massive data centers with millions of computers and tens of millions of processors.
I'm loath to overly concern or worry listeners who found it difficult to get through the long month of January, but I have to do so, Gerry, because in your book you do warn of civilizational collapse. Are these some of the signs of the imminent collapse? Are we already seeing the warning, the signposts for this?
I think we are, and I know how depressing it's horrible to bring these sorts of messages. But from the positive point of view, a lot of what this tour is about building local resilience. I think whatever challenges we have in Ireland, and we have lots of them, we still have this incredible strength, which is community. And I think building local resilience, teaching old skills, helping children to actually interact physically, not being dependent on their phones. We need to move away from this dependence on big tech, because it's not going to end well for the planet, and it won't end well for us. And their number one target, big tech, whether it's Facebook or Google, is our children. Google is trying to get embedded so deeply into our classrooms so that it can essentially create young addicts. And we need to build resilience of the local community and resilience of our young people for the future that is ahead. And that future, unfortunately, is not going to be very bright.
Okay, I'm sure Google would say that's not their aim, but that is the point, your perspective on it. You argue we don't need more technology, but a return to ethics and morality. What would that look like in practical terms, Gerry? And how difficult will it be to return to ethics and morality? Is this like turning around an oil tanker at this stage, given everything we've just discussed?
Well, the oil tank, yeah, there's some way it is. And you know, there are scientists out there, spent 5 years talking to scientists and researchers who said there's an inevitable civilizational collapse going to occur. So it's either going to be a long retreat or it's going to be a series of severe collapses. But within the next 100, maybe 200 years, human populations may well drop from 8 billion to 1 billion or less. And the question is, you know, what comes after, or as this retreat occurs, how do we develop communities that can survive these sorts of times? And I think without ethics, we have nothing. And ethics begin with respect for nature. Ethics begin with respect for our water. Ethics begin with the respect for our soil, with respect for our birds, with respect for our animals, with seeing that we are part of nature, not some superior creature that controls nature. When the bees go, we go. So we need to start looking after and teaching the ethics of gratefulness and the ethics of community and the ethics of humility.
Well, certainly huge themes that are covered and discussed in your book, Gerry. It's called 99th Day, A Warning About Technology. It's going to be launched in Fecal Hall this coming Monday from 12 noon to 5 p.m. Gerry McGovern, thank you so much for chatting about this book with us. And thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Alan.